Thank you very much. And really, we're here to talk about, like you said, about the 5G network platform and essentially the joint approach that, as we see it, how to maximize this innovative monetization by effectively combining and integrating the new 5G network with cloud and edge technologies. And that's part of what we're going to discuss here. And if a little bit going back to the evolution to 5G and not going to specific mobile generations, but obviously when the mobile network started to be deployed, it was all focused on coverage. So we started with the coverage era, and all the operators were focused on creating this really mobility market. And then as the mobile generations evolved, the focus was shifting to the device era, to the app era, where the device vendors and the apps were really the focus. We all remember the effect of the iPhone and the App Store as it happened in the 3G, and even more intensified during the 4G rollout and the functionalities that it enabled. And now as we move into 5G, operators have the opportunity to move into what we call the integration era. And this is where, by integrating the 5G network and the cloud to really become a platform for new services, but even more importantly, a new positioning for service providers. And I think it's important to mention, right? It's not a must, but operators that don't do this evolution that we'll be discussing into this integration era, they'll be remaining into, the same as before in the device era, in the same positioning of just being connectivity providers. And essentially what we are saying that's really needed for this approach is to become a platform, a 5G monetization platform, and essentially bring the cloud business model that we already know and we're used to today, but into the network, right? 5G has the advantage of having many more new network resources to utilize. And if we look at the 5G monetization platform, on the top, we have this, the BSS play, the service lifecycle, right? From the definition of the service, bundling the maybe different partners, different service provider assets, over to the engagement with the user, be it consumer or enterprise, through how this service will be monetized, and all the way through to analytics. And this exists today, but with 5G, two things are going to happen. First of all, the service creation and consumption and all of this life cycle is going to be much more dynamic, because services are going to be much more agile, much more with ongoing permutations. And this is precisely because of the new, more intense connection or exposure that is needed between this business layer and the network, what we call the value plane. And the value plane really enables this two-way exposure at every stage of the service lifecycle between the business layer and the new network. And again, when we say network, like I mentioned before, the CSPs now have many more assets. It's not just throughput or volume, but it's also the latency or reliability and slices and edge and VNFs, APIs. And again, the list goes on because the network is now software defined, it's virtualized, it's much more agile and dynamic. So from the definition, you can now match a partner to a specific slice and maybe edge resources or other of these parameters I just mentioned that are part of the service. Through the engagement, the network will be exposed, so the customer, and maybe more in enterprise use cases, the customer can see how the network is performing, how much he's utilizing. Through the monetization, right? We're monetizing many new, much more new elements, not just counting megabits, but all of these new parameters we just mentioned, and all the way through analytics. So again, this exposure, this link between all of these new capabilities of the 5G network and the full BSS 5G play is becoming crucial. And we put a few of the crucial elements on the bottom, right? We need a single catalog across the BSS and the OSS and the partner to really be able to do this definition, meet the customer at multiple channels, right? Enabling a much more self-service type of interaction, monetizing many different new dimensions. Of course, being open and modular is a given, right? We have now a partner ecosystem. We're going to have many different players here. And you have to remain dynamic, real-time, backed by automation. Again, the network already has many of these features, and it has to go, go up all the way to the business and really be exposed to the users. And I mentioned before the ongoing permutations. We're moving away from the static services we've known until now. And just as an example, I wanted to run through a few, a connected car example. And I think maybe just to emphasize, I'm not talking about the connected car, but rather the services. How if we just take the example of a connected car, we can have different services, business models, different monetizable elements, different user interactions. And it looks very complex, but really the essence of this 5G platform is to hide the complexity and really enable a world of possibilities for the customers. So let's look at this example. We might have a service provider be providing a B2C media package. So putting media assets, maybe gaming package, gaming partners on a broadband slice, and having assured performance and offering it to the consumers. So if I'm going now on a drive, I know there's going to be traffic jams. I might be ordering this service on the self-service app, and now I can rest assure my kids in the back seat will be relaxed during the whole drive. And it might be a limited time, again, fully exposed to me. On the middle slice, we have maybe a B2B offering on an IoT slice, giving car telemetries, maybe to the rental company, maybe to the car manufacturer to enable preventive maintenance. So again, it will be monetized per number of devices or slice utilization or any of the other assets, and the interaction will be through the enterprise portal for the IT manager of the rental company. And on the bottom, I think we have the most interesting slice, which is a B2B2C slice for a partner. And this slice parameters will be tailored for the partner requirements, right? What is the quality of service? What is the SLAs he needs here? Maybe he has edge resources here. Think of an example of a partner that gives collision avoidance type of solution by getting video streams from traffic lights, and that if he sees a car approaching a red light very fast, he can prevent other cars subscribed to the service from entering this junction and avoid the collision. So of course he needs low latency. Maybe he needs 3 or 4 or 5 edges across the city, and this will be provided to him by the service provider and monetized. And the user interaction here again will be to the middle B, the partner, will be through some sort of enterprise portal, and to the customer, the consumer at the end of the line, who will order the service. So again, we see different interactions, different business models, and all of this complexity can only be enabled by a flexible, dynamic 5G monetization platform. And I mentioned here the edge and the public cloud, and I think this is a very good handoff point to Visu, who will take it to the next level of discussion within the cloud and edge ecosystem. Visu, over to you.
Thank you, Ron. Very good insights and very good 5G use cases. CSPs will need to transform their IT capabilities of OSS and BSS to monetize these 5G use cases. Key to 5G monetization is going to be cost savings, new revenue streams, and maximizing existing revenue streams. Competencies for achieving this would be agility, efficiency, ability to innovate faster, and ability to scale in or scale out based on the need. Important cloud native design principles for these competencies are: organizations should come up with architectural patterns to use more open APIs, modular services, and organizations should use more managed services. Operational models should be more managed services, such as serverless compute, Lambda, managed container services such as EKS, ECS, managed database such as Aurora, DynamoDB, and breaking monolithic architecture to microservices to do simple and discrete functions, leveraging API gateway, SQS, SNS, and so on for integration frameworks. And management and governance to have centralized guardrails. AWS Control Tower automates the creation of landing zone. This would save time, effort, and cost by automating the processes while ensuring all the best practices guardrails are in place. It can also help in setting up logging, monitoring, security operations, and create dashboards for visibility into your organization units and accounts and guardrails. Service delivery to be automated and standardized with the DevOps tools, infrastructure as code, and CI/CD tools such as code commit, code pipeline for CI/CD workflows. Ability to scale in or scale out based on system needs. Systems of engagements, mediation, billing, bill formatting are very good candidates for scalability. Organizations should have ability to fail fast and innovate faster. Organizations should have ability to fail fast. Carriers should enhance their customer experience by leveraging data lakes, analytics, AI/ML, and offering more personalized solutions. 5G brings new opportunities for service providers to expand into new business value chains. 5G increases number of devices, new business models such as B2B, B2B2X, and new chargeable elements, new services, multiple permutations, increasing the charging complexity. And clearly, traditional charging models and operations must evolve. Operator must support new monetization methods such as quality of experience, like throughput, latency, resource utilization. At the same time, customers are also looking to have flexibility to change their plans whenever they want. In the example, Ron's example, while sitting in the car, while at the same time managing fully accurate charges visibility. And also you can see the number of devices increasing. New connected devices, IoTs, are also going to come into picture. This would increase in increasing signaling, congestion of backhauls, as well as potential performance. And this may increase also availability issues due to signaling latency, bottlenecks, as well as high loads. Placement of charging its function is going to be extremely critical, and how we are placing these charging nodes. AWS Outpost can help here. We can deploy lightweight charging edge on AWS Outpost, which is going to be a fully managed service that extends cloud locally to the locally, at the same time using same AWS infrastructure, same services what we use in cloud in region, at the same time same APIs, same tools, same hardware, and ubiquitous model across cloud and on-premises. Depending on the use case, we can also place central charging solutions in region. We can also place other regional services such as order CRM, order manager, billing, integration frameworks, and many OSS functions, all these things in region. These services are enabled by uh, Amdocs Catalog One, Digital One, MS360, Revenue One, and so on. These solutions are leveraging AWS services such as EKS, EC2, Lambda, ECR, and so on for compute. At the same time, purpose-built databases such as RDS Aurora, DocumentDB, Elasticache, logging, governance, as well as CloudWatch, CloudTrail, and security tools and developer tools. Now, we have seen how charging, policy, and other BSS solutions are placed into cloud and how technology is used. Now, David will explain us how value plane, cloud, these are empowering operator and its gains. Over to you, David. Thank you.
Hi, and thanks, Visu, and thank you, Ron, as well. And Ron, may I tell you what a good pilot you look like? So, with your super headset. Thanks a lot, guys. I think you gave a great lead in, and Ron, you introduced this concept of the value plane, and the value plane is essentially a glorified connector, if you like, between a very busy network world, if you like. There's a lot going on down there, and we'll talk about that in a second. And also a kind of increasing complexity going on at the business world. And I think everyone's talking now about how 5G is able to present us with so many more possibilities as time goes on. And these are available to those who are of the spirit to pick it up, but it's not just about the wish, it's about the execution. And I'm actually an engineer kind of in my background, and I thought this AND gate kind of is a nice illustration. It's the conjoining of two worlds. The top, we have the existing 3G and 4G reality that we live in. There's a lot of services out there. There's a lot of on-premises compute. I mean, cloud is relatively new for the industry and hasn't really been adopted much across the world. There are years of customizations and configuration across the network in order to deliver what we've been doing for all this time. a lot of legacy interfaces, and the data which exists in the network is typically just not used at all, and seriously under leveraged. 5G turns up. It's on our doorstep right now. It presents all these magical new things like slicing, and finally the ability to play with QoS and perhaps potentially produce and propose SLAs. The network functions, that's the acronym down the NF, the network functions can be deployed in theory anywhere, in private, public, or as Visu has just mentioned, near the edge. It's very much about having a kind of parallel with the cloud world, that it's a configurable network, as was mentioned earlier on. 5G has become programmable, and that's fundamentally different to anything that we had before. And this adoption of the REST-based interfaces brings us much closer technologically into how cloud works already. And that's really a fundamental change. And I think this is, in terms of what's gained by the operator, is not just the technological advantages, and as you just saw in Visu in his session, there's a huge amount of technology which has been improved across all of the vendors in cloud, and AWS are masters at this. But it's not just about that, it's about the economics, because the economics is really why cloud has become so successful, why so many enterprises and huge businesses have shifted their whole operations across the cloud, is because of the economics. It's not just about technology. We can all be engineers and get excited about it, but if economically it doesn't work, and really these concepts are what delivers a much shorter time to cache for the operator, gives this ability to have one system for all generations, and really integrate the value of the network into the enterprise customers. And what better example than to switch to a second example? Ron showed you one earlier on, hospitals, and a very topical thing in 2020. If you look at a hospital, it's actually a huge operation. There are many respective functions going on to make a hospital work, and be it extremely delicate environments such as an MRI scanner, or huge amounts of information needed for example, remote robotically controlled operations, or sensors, which obviously have very delicate needs to make them work. But you also have people hanging around waiting in the waiting rooms, and you have potentially a lot of software being transferred around. And actually all of these needs require very different things from the IT world, but also from the network. So 5G is not just one thing for a hospital. It is actually many things. And that begins to be where we start to see the leveraging of this concept of slices. But it's not just about slices, it's what happens inside those slices. And this is much to do with the curation of the network. And just some of the examples are shown here. And you can start to understand that as you track through the different use cases, and this is only a subset of the use cases in a typical large hospital, once you map these into what they really need from the network and who's paying for them, because also, back to the hospital example, it's not one financial entity, it could be many financial entities, but you start to understand that the way that 5G is delivered into this is actually in a multiplicity of ways, both financially and technically. And that's really where we think this kind of integration era really hits the road. And that's really where this value plane in terms of technology links in those business ideas into the reality of what's going on in the network itself. And the way that this is traded to the enterprise, so in this case, how the operator actually bonds commercially and technically what's possible through the 5G network. So it's not just what it is, it's what it makes possible, is through a buying process, if you like. And on the left-hand side here, you get this sense that a B2X buyer would actually buy into some of these capabilities which are available through the 5G service in plain English, and actually buy into them really in the dollar sense, saying, look, this is a value to me. I'm going to select that option, just as they do on AWS today. If you log into AWS today, you will drag and drop bits of functionality as Visu is going through, and you'll be ready to pay for them because they have intrinsic and specific value for you. And then your techie guy, your engineer, well, then he'll go and configure it. So everything that you've chosen, that curation of the 5G network that you've chosen, then sends you down a route, a kind of workflow, if you like, of integrating that into your enterprise needs and allowing yourself to be more successful than you were before, thanks to the power of 5G. So yeah, I'd just like to thank all of you, I think, for listening to three guys talking from their homes in 2020. And we very much appreciate being on the platform of Digital Transformation World and having a platform for sharing some of our thoughts. So with that, back to the studio.